On the bench now, I have what I need to start sewing the bottom in. So I've got my block of wood that has double padding, and this is going to be basically the push pin for me to keep stabbing through the side and into the bottom to get my diamond holes along the bottom. And on the bottom I just sort of have that reference line, and there's little spots that mentally I know I'm going to intentionally try to come in that might be a little too close to the outside edge. And then I tend to find that these holes are much harder to pull the needle through, so I've got my flat pliers really handy. And the very first step seems super tricky, but I'm going to go from this spot right here, and I want to do a hole that would be directly in line right here. And so what I'm going to do is kind of cradle this with my body, and you'll notice that the diamond holes are at an angle, so I want to maintain that angle. I'm going to get in here, try not to pierce any of my thread, and I'm going to just start finding where I can feel the chisel on the inside. And then once I like everything that I'm at, I'm going to cover up this. Right out of the gate. I'm back. I snapped my awl, so that's fine. So back to finding my little angle. I feel like I'm going to be happy with that. So I've got my diamond more or less lined up, and I can feel like I'm hitting the right spot here. Cover that up. And I'm pretty close. I find that I'm not totally perfect on punching these, and then if I go just a little bit more in, it'll make pressing that needle through easier. But I'm careful to not do a lot of scarring with the base of this tool, of my awl, because it will start marring up everything you see there. And then I know my next hole is going to be from the center here up through. So I'm going to go ahead and prep that one. Trying to get the diamond chisel about the same angle. And then a little bit additional pop through. And then I know my third hole, just getting the thread out of the way, is going to be from this corner, and then directly above. Nice. So from here, I'm going to actually take this thread and do that big diagonal. It's going to be a challenge to find, so oftentimes I find poking my needle back through this way helps open that hole back up. There it is. Now we've got them opposite of each other. One's on the top and one's on the bottom. So this is where you pick a side to keep going as the first stitch all the time. So I'm going to pick the one down here, and it's going to go up. And again, similar to over here, if you want to really make sure your thread is laying flat, great. Other people are going to want to be a little bit more expedient and not have that concern. So now you're going to go with your opposite thread, so the one that's in the back or further behind, I tend to hold this to keep the thread out of the way. I want to come up through that same hole, have my pliers. On the bottom again, I'm not so worried about keeping the thread nice and straight. Now I'm always starting with the thread that's on the bottom, or on the sides I should say. So it's going to come here. And up. Pull that out of the way. Go down, help it through. And now I can get into a rhythm once I give myself a bunch of holes to follow. When I get all the way around, I'm going to make sure I go back at least 2 stitches to make sure that it doesn't ever unravel after cutting the thread flush. And so I tend to go just a little bit past, probably to this spot, and then when I backtrack, I like having the thicker thread highlight right underneath the crisscross. I'm going to punch a bunch of holes. When I'm punching these holes, I actually find it useful to do a bunch of them at once because my muscle memory works to my advantage. So I tend to find that I like to find where that hole goes. I'm a little bit inside my line, but I'm going to be fine with that. All right, at this point, I've completed all the hole punching with the awl. Please keep in mind that this is something very sharp and very long. It can go into your palm, so be very sure that your stop block, your push block, is in the way so it doesn't puncture you. it would be very devastating to get that in your palm. And then I'll give you a quick tour. It's not perfection, but remember the underside is not going to be seen. But I did have some consistency, so I feel solid about that. I'm making these flat pack kits available to all, so click the link below and find out how you can buy one for yourself or give it as a gift. Definitely make sure to follow along, as I've created a whole video series on step-by-step instructions on how to make these leather planter pots.